Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, very special guest. You may know him as Big Swoll. He was a No Limit Soldier in WCW. He's in the AWA. He played NFL football. He is, of course, Mr. Randy Thornton. Welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, sir.
What's going on in your world? What have you been up to?
Well, I'm retired. Um, 4 years ago, I had two heart attacks, so I'm on the heart transplant list.
Wow.
And I've been doing a lot of speaking for the National Heart Association, and I'm the national spokesperson for Sleep Apnea Association. So I've been pretty busy, and I'm just a cowboy. I got dogs and horses, and I'm just living in New Orleans. And 20 years ago, when I left No Limit in WCW, I never looked back. I just been going a totally different direction since then.
Wow, no wrestling at all. Not even watching it or paying any attention to it?
No, I don't even watch it. I can't tell you who's wrestling, what they're doing. And I have my own personal reasons. And when you tell people and people allow me to tell my story why I don't, a lot of people get mad, but I'm just telling you, I'm just telling you the truth why I don't watch it. I mean, I don't know who's wrestling. I don't know who's the champion. I don't even know what organizations are out there right now.
Do you just hate wrestling or just one of those things you're just not interested in anymore?
When I got in the wrestling industry, it was different times back then. I first got in, I did the very last show for AWA in Minnesota. I wrestled a guy named Frank Anderson. And then I went over to Japan and I studied in Japan. And my very first wrestling match in Japan was with Hashimoto. And we did a match and I did some independent work, but I just didn't like the industry. The industry wasn't for me. And I went back and I played Canadian football. And after I finished playing Canadian football, I hooked up with my childhood friend, Master P. And I started working for No Limit Records. So I was in the record industry for a couple of years. And the reason why we got into wrestling, because one day we were sitting down watching wrestling, and I heard Conan saying he's about it, routed. And that's No Limit most famous song.
Yep.
So I told P, I said, if I can get us into wrestling. So I called Brad Riggins. And Brad Riggins called Mr. Perfect. And that's how we got hooked up with the No Limit WCW deal. But I want your fans to enjoy your show, so I'm not going to say anything negative.
Hey, whatever it is, it is. Sarah, whatever it will be. But with that though, that's just an amazing thing because, who would have thought? Okay, you're going to hear Conan say that Master P is going to want to get in. It's just such an interesting way of getting back into the business when you were in there years ago with AWA and New Japan.
Yeah, I mean, and I was 330 pounds, and when I contact them, I walk in. They flew me to Atlanta, and I walk in, and there's Eric Bischoff, Macho Man Randy Savage, Big Sexy. There's a bunch of famous guys sitting around the table when we signed with them. And, when No Limit came out, we took it by storm. I'm talking about with the rap is crap, with the West Texas redneck. And, what happened is, people say, well, one day y'all just disappeared. Well, one day, me and Master P got into a big argument, and he didn't show up for Bass at the Beach, and so he basically abandoned his own clique because he got mad, and because they were scheduled for us to go overseas, we was booked to go to Japan, in China, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Wow. So he got mad at you. He got mad at Dusty and WCW, the Bookers, or what happened there?
Well, what happened was, if people, because it was so long ago, but when we came out with the West Texas Redneck Rappers crap, the West Texas Rednecks were becoming the good guys, and we were becoming the heels. I mean, we'll go to Kentucky, Nashville, and we was getting all the heat, you know. And
Yep.
and so it was 2 weeks, I think a week before Bass at the Beach in Tampa. Dusty came to me and said, "Randy, look, uh, we have to turn this around. The No Limit Soldiers are turning to the bad guys, and the West Texas Rednecks are turning to the good guys." He said, "We're gonna, you're gonna do the show in Atlanta, and they're gonna jump in the ring. They're gonna jump in and beat the dog shit out you because we got to give people a reason to dislike them. So you're gonna win Bass at the Beach, And Dusty called. Dusty was our promoter, and apparently Master P didn't like that, and he just didn't show up. And he's I would fly to shows and just sit backstage, and man, they was paying me like 30,000 a month just to come and sit backstage.
Wow. How'd you get that contract? That's a great contract.
Yeah, I was making more money than the headliners. It's just that they wanted, they wanted the No Limit Soldiers so bad, and it basically anything we asked for, I got. I was in my contract. I had to fly in first class. I had my contract. I had to stay in the suite. And a lot of guys were mad at me, but like I say, hey man, don't get mad at me because you want to negotiate. you know, and but I really, I really didn't like the wrestling industry. I'm an introvert. I've never used drugs a day in my life. I'm anti-alcohol, and when you deal in the wrestling industry, that's all it is. It's drugs, alcohol. You go backstage, people are passed out. They're passing out pain pills, and it just wasn't an industry that I wanted to be associated with.
How'd you get the contract though? Like originally, like when you got that deal, like who sat down and gave you? Was it Eric Bischoff or was it Master P getting that contract for you? How
No,
did that go about?
no, me and the lawyer for No Limit, we flew to Atlanta, and we met with Kevin Nash and Macho Man and all those guys, and we negotiated. The Master P had nothing to do with the negotiation. Me and the lawyer did it. We did everything, and we set everything up, and we was set for a couple, for a year or two. But Pete, every time he does stuff about No Limit, he lies and tell people that he has such a short contract and he made $500,000, didn't show up, all that. He's just a bunch of lies. He just, he just don't want to tell people the truth. You know,
Are you still in contact with Master P today? You guys still talking or no?
can I cuss on here?
Sure.
Fuck no. I can't stand that motherfucker. Seriously, I can't stand him. We have not talked since the last time I seen him. With WCW, he's an asshole. He's a con man, and I have nothing to say nice about him. And we just totally, I wish him, he's going through a lot with his family, with his daughter committing suicide, and stuff like that. And no, I've gone a totally different route. I have nothing to do with the music industry, the wrestling industry. I got into the cattle business. Right now, I'm into the mattress manufacturing business. So, I've really just stayed away, from a lot of, entertainment and stuff like that. And, you know, when Rey Mysterio come in town, I've gotten a couple of phone calls. Just, hey, how you doing? What's going on and stuff like that. But no, I have no interest in the wrestling business whatsoever.
So still talk to Ray sometimes though. That's cool.
Yeah, talked to him like 2-3 years ago, something like that. So but I There's a bunch. There's just a bunch of guys. To be honest with you, I just didn't like them. I mean, these are famous people, and in real life, they're dickheads. I mean, assholes, and I'm about you know uplifting. I've always been that kind of motivational person, and when you meet these people in person, they are fucking dicks. I mean, just assholes. You know,
Like who in particular? Like, and would this be like politically they're doing stuff? Like,
no, they just wasn't nice people. I hate Hulk Hogan. Hulk
wow,
Hogan,
okay,
he was a dick. Uh, to me, he was racist. He was a dickhead. He was arrogant. He walked around like he was prima donna, and I didn't like him. And I'm sorry, I'm about to make a bunch of fans mad. I'm about to say this, but I hate Ric Flair. Ric,
wow.
Ric Flair was the biggest dick I've ever met in my life, and I heard him say. I heard him say something very racist about the No Limit Soldiers, and he didn't know that I was listening to him. And I'm not going to say what he said, but he said something very racist. And now, when I see him, and he's with the Amigos and he's with Snoop Dogg, I'm like, oh, so now you like this, you know, now you like this. But back, back then, it was a totally different story.
Wow, so the two biggies, the two big dogs there, Hogan and Flair, not a fan.
Well, it's no secret what Hulk Hogan is. I mean, everybody knows when his daughter started dating a black guy on a reality show. That's why the reality show got canceled. Because what he called the young man, and I mean Ric Flair. That's not no secret. Yeah, I mean Ric Flair, in a lot of people's opinions, one of the greatest wrestlers ever. Yeah, it's cool, but and what I heard him say personally, I just never respect him for it. It's just like when I was in Japan, I was on a tour bus, and the tour bus driver was telling me a story about Andre the Giant. I don't know if you heard about him and Bad News Brown got into it.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was making racist jokes in the back. And people, you got to remember, Bad News Brown was a bad dude
Yes.
on the
Yes.
street. He was
Yep.
he was the first American to ever win a judo medal in the Olympics.
Right.
This brother
Yep.
was not to play with. And they say Andre was making racist jokes, and he told the guy to pull over the bus. And Bad News Brown got off, and he told Andre Giant, "Get your ass off the bus." And all the wrestlers on the bus was telling Andre, "Don't get off the bus. He's gonna hurt you. Andre, he's gonna really, really hurt you." So it was, but Bad News Brown talked about it,
Yep.
and what he used to, because he's passed away now. But it just wasn't. And I want to say this: if you like wrestling, keep watching it. Keep loving it. Don't let what I say discourage you about anybody. I'm just speaking, my opinion, and my opinion is like an asshole. Everybody has one, So
Yep.
I'm just sharing, my story, and I don't want nobody, contact your show and tell, "Oh, he's an asshole, he's a dick." No, I'm just telling the truth. That's what I'm doing, is telling the truth.
So who else didn't you like in WCW? Like, was there somebody like anybody else as far as maybe lower tier guys or other guys you had problems with?
I didn't have problems, but I can tell you the nicest person I met.
Yeah, there you go.
I love Sid Vicious. Sid took me underneath his wing. Seriously, that guy was first class. Sid Vicious was so nice to me, and he would tell me, "Hey, Swoll, you want to do this? Do it this way, do it that way, do your spot like this." And he was cool. I was cool with the Steiners because I worked with them in Japan. So if I got, that was years. I was on tour with them, and when I was in Japan, Chris Benoit, but his name was the Pegasus Kid, when he was in Japan. So I knew him for years. And Big Van Vader, we went to the same wrestling school. So I've done work, I worked with him. And Animal and Hawk, they were trained under Brad Riggins in Plymouth, Minnesota. So them, Demolition, the Construction Crew, Kurt Hennig, a lot of those guys are from the same area.
Yeah,
Rabbiton,
crazy. Yep.
Rabbiton, Rick Rude, all those guys trained in Plymouth, Minnesota. And I know Brad Riggins. A lot of people don't know who he is, but he trained a lot of superstars. And the last person Brad trained was Brock Lesnar. That was the last person. I talked to Brad probably 2 years ago. He called and checked up on me because he heard I had a heart attack, and he called me. But it was you got to think about this. Here I am in wrestling school, and we go into the ring, and Animal Hawk is in the ring waiting for us. I'm going, what the hell? But they were real nice guys, They were real nice guys, very class. Hawk was Hawk, Animal was very nice, very approachable. You remember a guy by the name of Wayne Bloom?
Oh, yeah.
Wayne,
one of the Beverly Brothers, yeah.
One of the Beverly Brothers, Well, Wayne also trained under Brad Riggins. And Wayne, I still speak to Wayne to this day, and and the Nasty Boys, went to school, with us. So it was always a family, and I'll never forget. Brad told me, he said, Randy, I should have pushed you more. You had too much talent. When I went to WCW, they didn't want me to wrestle. They want me to be a thug, punches, body slam. They didn't want me to wrestle. Hey, Randy, the gimmick is you off the street. Let's stick with that gimmick. So when I went to WCW, I tried to bring that old school wrestling like Harley Race, that kind of wrestling, which I was growing up to. But that's not wrestling anymore. Harley Race, Kamala, all those guys. That's how I wanted to wrestle. Today, wrestling is not like that. Today is more, acrobatics, flipping, and all that kind of stuff. Well, when I was a little boy, when you watch Harley Race, you might see 12 clotheslines.
For sure.
And I still remember to the day, I still show people the match with Harley Race and Big Van Vader when he knocked his eyes off the socket. That's wrestling to me. Today wrestling, y'all can have it.
How did you get into that Minnesota camp? Were you wanting to be a wrestler, or how did that even happen?
This is a very crazy story. There was an old wrestler by the name of Big Cat on the Lad. I don't know if you remember Big Cat.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yep. Great football player, too.
Yeah, great football player, all pro. Big Cat was the man back in the day in wrestling,
Yes.
And I was going to the University of Houston, and this is after he retired from wrestling. He was coaching at Texas Southern University. And I went into this place called, Pierre's Chicken. And I went to get my chicken, and he said, boy, you thought about getting into wrestling? I was like, no, because I already knew who he was, I was like, no, sir. He said, man, you do good in wrestling. You got the size, you got the look, you got the walk. He said, man, look, if you ever want to get in wrestling, here's a phone number. And he gave me Brad Riggins' phone number. And it just so happened years later, I wanted to become a professional wrestler after my football career, and I still had the number. So I lived in Plymouth for 2 years.
Wow, pretty awesome though. Ernie the Big Cat Lad of all people. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, he used to live in New Orleans, too. So I've always seen, he passed away, but he used to have Big Cat Ernie Lad barbecue, and I would go by and talk to him, and stuff like that. Real, and um, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, he also lives in New Orleans, you know.
Yep.
So you see these guys, and they always have to talk about wrestling. And when I was a kid, Mid South wrestling was the big thing, And we had, I'm gonna say names that people don't know, Mr. Wrestling #2,
Yes.
Iron Mike Steele, Junkyard Dog, Ray Candy, Abdul the Butcher. These are the guys that I grew up watching. Cowboy Bill Watts, Dusty Rhodes and Terry Funk, those I always wanted to wrestle like those guys, and that was my downfall, But it was, not when I was a little boy. Every Saturday, me and my family went to the municipal auditorium, to watch wrestling all the time.
Wow. So you were a huge fan. That's awesome.
Yeah. We sneak in the back.
Wow, that's great though. I didn't realize that really. I mean, you were such a big fan, so you knew obviously all the wrestlers.
Oh yeah. I got into a big argument the other day. Someone told me that Ric Flair is the best wrestler of all time. I said, no, I can't agree with you on that. And it was like, well, who? These people, they have no history about Gorgeous George. Gorgeous George saved professional wrestling. Before there wouldn't be a Muhammad Ali. It wasn't for Gorgeous George. There wouldn't be a Ric Flair. It wasn't for Gorgeous George. And when you tell these people, especially young people, who I never heard of Gorgeous George. I mean, do your research. This man took wrestling from a stone age to the spotlight. Gorgeous George really changed wrestling. And when I hear people say, "Oh, such and such is the GOAT," you never hear nobody talk about Gorgeous George right now. He's not listed. He's not even, nobody talk about the top wrestler or the top GOAT, but I have seen every wrestling match that I could find on video about Gorgeous George. And that's my GOAT. It's Gorgeous George.
Hey, I believe it because if you think about it, Muhammad Ali stole his whole shtick.
Yes.
His whole gimmick was Gorgeous George. Yeah.
Muhammad Ali said, if it wasn't for Gorgeous George, there wouldn't be a Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just, it was different times. I'm a historian. When I was a little boy, I wanted to be like Pork Chop Cash. I don't remember that name.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
I wanted to be like Pork Chop Cash. And I throw out names that people never heard of before. And but back then wrestling was region. It wasn't like it is now. WWE didn't run everything. It was Mid-South, Tennessee, Florida, Texas, Minnesota, AWA, and all that. So everybody had a different region, and so all the wrestlers would compete, especially with, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida. They was very competitive with each other. So, but back then it was just different times, I came up when wrestling was fun.
Yes, and all the legends were like larger than life guys too.
Yeah, and
nowadays not so much, but like back then, like the guys were literally larger than life. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's just wrestling just wasn't my thing. Like I say, I didn't. You'd be amazed how many athletes are drug addicts and alcoholics. I've seen them. The reason I became a spokesperson for the Sleep Apnea Association, I do speaking engagements all over the world, and I do podcasts all the time. And the reason why I do it because that's what Brad Armstrong Brad Armstrong died in his sleep on his couch,
Yeah.
and that I got I have a picture in my office, and it took me 20 years to look at this picture. It's a picture of me, Brad Armstrong, Chase Tatum, Barry Windham, Kurt Hennig, the Windham brothers, and Bobby Duncan Jr. We all standing up together, before a show, all hugged up, and it's amazed that out the seven, only three of us still alive.
Yeah. Nuts.
Only three of us. And that picture haunted me for a long time. I knew Bobby Duncan Jr. because we played against each other in college. He went to University of Texas. I was at University of Houston, so we knew each other. I was a big fan of the Wyndham brothers. Their dad. I was a big fan of their dad. So
Blackjack. Yeah.
And so it was it was a picture haunting me. Especially because I talked to Brad Ringers. Excuse me, I talked to BA probably a month before he died. And I talked to his mother and talked to his wife. And so, but a lot of people don't know right now, especially if you go back and you look at these videos, wrestlers that died and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You know that a lot of them died of heart attacks, heart disease, and sleep apnea. And I know people say, "Oh, it's steroids, it's steroids." That's people who don't know anything. They just don't do their research. And here, I had 2 heart attacks, and I had heart disease, and I've never taken steroids a day in my life. My mother has heart disease, my brother has heart disease, my sister has heart disease. My mom's sister. So it's something. So when people don't know what they're talking about, I just leave them alone. I just let them just be ignorant. Because they don't know. But right now, a lot of professional wrestlers, professional athletes are dying from sleep apnea, and a lot of them are dying from heart disease because they don't know they have it.
Yep.
And yes, we take physical examination, but they don't do examinations, for heart disease and stuff like that. I think it was 5 years ago, I went to Mississippi, and I seen that dude, Kamala, James Harris.
Yep.
And it hurt me to see that man have both his legs amputated.
Very sad. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was telling me that, and I asked him. I said, "Man, did WWE do anything for you?" He told me, "No, nothing." And it's so many wrestlers, especially the elders, because one of my favorite. Oh my God, he just passed away. Hulk Hogan stole his gimmick.
Superstar Billy Graham.
Yes, Superstar Billy Graham is. He was Hulk Hogan before Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
And I was doing a speaking engagement. He was there, and another old wrestler y'all probably might know, Mad Dog Michonne.
Yes. Yep.
Mad Dog was there, and just to sit down and just listen to these guys talk, because back then the wrestlers wasn't making millions of dollars. Those guys had to drive in cars, and sleeping in their cars and stuff like that, And so it was a different time, and but I tell people all the time, if you love wrestling, keep on watching it. I'm just going into a different venture in my life. I'm more into the business world. Like I said, I just started a new business venture. I mattress manufacturing. And I make. I'm coming out with the big Swoll folding chair. It's a chair that can hold up a 600-pound man and 7 feet tall. Because I used to always collapse folding chairs, so I said, you know what, I'm gonna make my own chair. So, we got that going on.
Cool. Yeah.
So I just, Like guys in the music industry, I don't talk to Master P, I don't talk to Snoop Dogg, I don't talk to Mystical. Uh, it's just, it's part of my life. I mean, a good day for me is to go out in the barn and pick up horse shit. You know,
Yeah.
that's a great, that's a great day for me. And you hear my dogs in the back. I got 6 dogs,
Wow.
so
Nice.
yeah, I love animals, and I do a lot of reading, and I try to encourage, mentor people, because you know I listen, I watch these guys, because my daughter showed me videos, and I watch these guys doing independent shows, and they killing themselves for $25. You know, I mean, I'm like, I mean, do you have a regular job?
Yeah. Jesus. Yep.
They're doing stuff. My daughter can tell me, Dad, look at this. I mean, going through barbed wire fence and all this kamikaze stuff. And I'm like, you don't get paid that much at independent. If you get $25, $30 a show, that's a lot of money.
Oh man, it is crazy. But going back to Brad Armstrong for a second though, because I was just thinking like No Limit Soldiers, he's BA or whatever, Brad
Mm-hmm.
Armstrong BA. Did you like him and Chase Tatum? Did you
Oh,
think they fit the No Limit Soldiers though? Like as
yeah,
far as like the group and the
yeah.
gimmick?
I love BA because when me and BA we did a lot of tag teams and stuff
Yes.
together.
Yep.
And man, BA was cool, and when we was wrestling, his brother Jesse James was in the military, you know, and so you'll go to his house and his dad be sitting there, and his dad will talk to you about wrestling, and Chase, I picked Chase out the power plant. I picked him up myself, and you know that didn't work out too good for us, so we had to cut ties with Chase, but you know, I I miss BA. Yeah, I really do. He was a good friend, and and everybody loved BA. Every, I've never heard one person ever say anything bad about him.
It's true. Yeah, you rarely ever hear anything bad about him, which is crazy. About
He's a great.
anybody, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yep. He's like unanimously loved.
I'm still surprised Rey Mysterio's still wrestling. Someone told me that he's still. I'm like, damn,
And he's still really good.
yeah. He, Rey Mysterio is probably one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen personally.
Yep. Same here. Yep.
Let me tell you the best wrestling match I've ever seen in my life. I was in Japan and I was wrestling for New Japan, and we was doing the 25th anniversary for New Japan, and we was in Osaka Castle, and I seen the Pegasus Kid and Tuco Scorpio go at it. I've never seen a wrestling match like that. You talking about some? I'm talking about wow.
Two of the best. Yeah.
They were going at it, and I was like, this probably the best live wrestling match I've ever seen in my life, because Scorpio, he was good,
Awesome.
you know,
Yep.
and I heard he's still wrestling independent. And I'm like, wow,
Yes. Yes. Somehow. Yeah. He's still in pretty good shape too. Somehow.
they can have it. It's like when the day my wife called and told me about Chris Benoit, what happened with him and his family. And that's not the Chris Benoit I know. Chris was very quiet, always motivating you. We used to work out together because, him and Rey Mysterio were good friends, and, that situation, that's not the Chris Benoit I know.
Sad situation with him for sure. With WCW and the No Limit Soldiers and being a part that. Where does or were you always Swoll? Did they give you the Swoll nickname? Like, where does like the name come from?
I've been calling myself Swoll since I was 6 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've been calling myself Big Swoll since I was six, and because I was super skinny, and I used to always say when I grew up on be swole, and when I played college football and I played in the NFL, I did a lot of powerlifting, and then when I got out of football, I started doing a lot of bodybuilding exercises, bodybuilding workout, and I went from like 250 like 340 pounds. When I was wrestling with WCW, I was around 330, something like that.
Yeah, you
You
were
know,
huge.
yeah, I was swollen. And now I've always, when we hooked up with WCW, we basically wrote our own ticket because that was the day. Because you remember we did the show in New Orleans where we threw the cake in Kurt Hennig's face. You know,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
and we also did the premiere of the Who to Who video.
Who do you?
We did
Yep.
that live. So we basically had the whole run of the company. And Eric Bischoff. He said something. He did an interview, and he said some really nice things about me. You know, and I respect him. He's like Swoll was so professional. Swoll was always there 2 hours before the show. And he said, man, Swoll had potential. But I just when I left, when I left, I gave my life to Christ. I started a new life. Um, I just didn't want to be, a lot of people think being famous is fun, and it's really not. You know, um, if it was so good, why so many celebrities have mental health issues? If being famous so good, you know, why Rick Flair's an alcoholic? You know, why Kanye West is crazy? You know, it's not. In my family and in my house, there's not one picture of me and No Limit Soldiers on my wall. There's no football pictures. There's no All American plats. All my everything I made. Playing football, and all my trophies and football helmets are all in the attic. You know, and I don't. I just I run a house. To the kids, I'm daddy. To my friends, I'm Randy, and to my wife, I'm son of a bitch. So
True. Yes. Yes. With that, like with No Limit Soldiers, were you supposed to stay? Obviously, Mr.
yeah,
BS's blow up does come up. Were you supposed to stay even though No
yeah,
Limit Soldiers were gone? Oh, you
yeah.
were. Okay.
I did some work with Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman, me
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
me and 4x4, we used to escort him to the ring and stuff like that. So I did that. Um, but they were basically pretty pissed off at Master P. You know, and like I said, they were paying me $30,000 a month just to sit backstage. They'll fly me to all the shows, and I sit backstage, and I wouldn't be on the board.
Yep.
And I'll still get paid.
How did you get so big? You were kind of mentioning that before. No steroids, all natural, right? How did you get so big? Do you just work out all day? I mean, what is it? Good genes? What's like the secret?
My dad was a big man. My dad worked on a railroad. Um, I was, I, I just love weights. I call eating weights. Um, when I got into, when I was in high school and college, I was a safety. I played corner safety. And when I got to the NFL, they moved me to linebacker. So I went from like 220 to 250, you know. And after I tore my ACL, after having two ACL surgeries, I went to Canada, and I got so much into weightlifting that I was 330 pounds. And that's when I went to Japan. And when I was in Japan, I got a phone call. I got drafted in the World League. So that's why I left Japan. I came back to the States. And I played 2 years in the World League. And then that's when I hooked up with Master P, and that but I love eating weights. Right now, I'm 59 years old, and people look at me right now, and they're like, oh man, you look healthy, you look, but a lot of people know I have electric heart, and I'm on the heart transplant list. And I don't know if you can see it, but
Yeah. Yep.
you know, I'm on
Yep.
the I'm on a heart transplant list, and when people see me, everybody say, "Oh man, you look healthy." Thank you, I appreciate it. I just started walking 2 years ago. I was confined for 3 years, and but I'm still here. You know, I smile every day. You know, every day is a blessing. Every morning I get up at 6 o'clock. I brush my teeth, drink my coffee. I go to church and I pray for an hour, and I pray from like 6 to 7, and then I go to the gym. I work out from like 7:30 to 12, and then I go mess with my cows and my horses. So that's my life.
Yeah. Did you ever think, as far as like when you were playing in the NFL, or almost really in the NFL, did you ever think of that you were going to make it like on a team full time, that you were going to be there for the whole season, or what was like the end game with football?
Well, this is weird because when I first went to Denver, my rookie year, I made the roster. In the first game, I broke my hand. Very first game, you know. So, so they paid my full salary. So, I trained. So the second year, man, I must have had the best off season because they was calling me the surprise of the camp. I was balling, and the very first game was Monday Night Football against San Francisco 49ers. Very first game. I've already made the team, everything. And I never forget, we in Candlestick Park, and we punt the ball, and I'm running, and the guy catch the ball, he drops the ball, and instead of me jumping over the pile, I jumped over the pile. And when I came down, I shredded every ligament in my knee. Every every
Damn.
every ligament you can name, I tore it, and I was never the same after that. But I went
Crazy.
on and still played in Canada, and I played in the World League. But after I tore my knee up, I mean, I wound up having altogether, I've had 6 ACLs, and I've had 12 scopes on my knees.
Damn, that's crazy. And you
Yeah,
were almost a part of the 1990 Giants Super Bowl team, right? Weren't
yeah,
you almost on that team?
yeah. I was on injury reserve. Yeah, I was on
That's
injury
awesome.
reserve,
Did you
and
get a ring at all, or no?
no, I ain't get a ring.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. I didn't deserve one. You know, and it's sometimes you sit back and you say why me, but I've been pretty blessed. You know, I mean, I was All American. Out of high school, I was the number one player in the nation, defense. Uh, I was crewed by 135 schools, scholarship offers, and I played professional sports, and I lived in Hollywood. I hung out with Tupac. I hung out with Snoop Dogg. I've driven every car I ever wanted. I've driven Ferraris, Bentleys. I lived in mansions. You know, I've had millions of dollars. I think my life turned out pretty good.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have no complaints. Even with the heart attacks, I have no complaints in life.
With wrestling and football, there is a correlation or a connection with Bill Goldberg, right? Didn't you
Yeah,
play with Goldberg? I
yeah,
know obviously you were in WCW with him, but didn't you play football with him as well?
yeah, we played 2 years. We was with Sacramento Gold Miners and Sacramento Surge. Our first year we was the Sacramento Surge of the World Football League, and he was the starting nose guard, now the starting defensive end. And the next year we went to the Canadian Football League, and so the Sacramento Gold Mine was what expansion team in the CFL, but in the United States.
Yep.
And then the next year I got traded to another Canadian team. But Bill, what you see in Bill is Bill. That's who he is. I call him my Jewish brother. And Bill had a hard time growing up. He had to learn how to fight pretty quickly, especially living in Oklahoma. And I want to say a lot of people don't know, but I think I remember his mom's a concert pianist or something like that, and his dad is an archaeologist or something like that. So he comes from a very intelligent family, but I don't know. It might be vice versa, but I know one of them I think his dad was a professor or something like that, but I think his mom was a concert violinist or pianist or something like that. So he comes from a very intelligent family.
When you look at like him, it's like he's an animal. You know what I mean? He's got one speed, his full speed, but like, wow, it's like, yeah, but he could have been an archaeologist or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just crazy to think of that.
Yeah. Hey, let me tell you something. Bill has hurt a lot of people in wrestling. He has put a lot of people in the hospital, and he's a great guy, He's a great guy. This is a story that a lot of people don't know. When we joined WCW, we sitting at the table, and so they asked me, "Who you want to be No Limit Soldier?" So Conan, Rey Mysterio.
Yep.
They was like, "Well, look, we got who Brad Armstrong?" I'm like, "Yeah, BA." He said, "Like, we want him to join." I said, "Okay." They said, "Well, who do you want?" And I said, "I want New Jack." From the Gangsters.
Yes.
You can't have New Jack. I said, "Why?" He said, "Man, he's a liability. He hurts too many people." I said, "Well, man, y'all told me I can have who I want." It's like, right. No, man, you can't have New Jack. And so they denied me New Jack. And later on, New Jack did a video where he approached Kevin Nash about that, about him denying him joining No Limit Soldiers because he wanted to be a No Limit Soldier so bad. And no telling what we would have done with New Jack.
Yeah, it would have been cool. Yep.
But they wouldn't give me New Jack.
What about Conan? What did you think about Conan? Did you like Conan?
Conan is quiet, He's always distant, Conan was pretty, he was pretty cool. Even though he said some bad things about me, later on, he said I had no talent, which is pretty cool, Everybody has opinions, but I never said I was a great wrestler, I'm just a brother from the hood that's got a chance, and Conan, I don't talk about him a lot, none of my interviews, anything, I don't talk about Conan a lot, I talk about Rey Mysterio because Rey Mysterio is one of the best and still the best, and so but he was nice, we had a friendship, we had a friendship, it was okay.
When you look back at just like the wrestling career, do you think like, oh man, I should have stuck around and done it longer, I would have made more money? Or do you look at it like, no, I have no regrets, screw that, I'm out of here?
Let me tell you a story I never told nobody. When I was in Japan, I flew back to Minnesota, and New Japan called me up, and one of the promoters, he said, we're going to fly you back. And he said, how do you feel about taking an ass whipping for 45 minutes? What? Can you take an ass whipping for 45 minutes? I'm like, who? There's like, well, we want to book you to wrestle Big Van Vader in the main event. And I said, well, what's the spots? What are the spots? Well, there is no spots. He's going to beat the dog shit out of you. You got to remember, I'm ripped full of muscles, good looking cat, and I told him, nah, I don't think I can do that. And I'll never forget the promoter told me, well, if you don't do it, you'll never wrestle in Japan again. I was like, bye.
Wow. Wow.
You know, because you have to remember back in the early '90s, in the mid '90s, Big Van Vader was hurt Leon because he was hurting a lot of people, and I'm talking about breaking bones and shit. And I didn't get in the wrestling industry, to have nobody beat the dog shit out of me. I'm sorry. And they told me they said if I didn't wrestle, Leon, I'll never wrestle in Japan again. I never wrestle in Japan again.
Why though? Like, just the ask it. Why couldn't it just been like a a decent match or something? Why that booking?
I don't know, because I, would- I wouldn't have mind losing to him, but don't make me look like a bitch, and get my ass whipped. I mean, we had no spots. There was no spots for this match. He was, he was gonna walk in with the mask with the steam coming out,
Yes.
and all the fire
Yeah.
and smoke, and I was gonna be standing in the ring, and he was just gonna just whip the dog shit out of me. I mean, there were no spots and no script or anything, and I just couldn't do it.
Did you like Japan, like wrestling over there? I know obviously
I
it was
loved
really
it.
against Hashimoto, but did you like that?
I love Japan. I trained over there for 2 months, and if it wasn't me going back to play football, I loved it over there. It's, I trained over there in the dojos, and they take wrestling. They were more different than we were, and
Yeah, sport.
yeah, it's I loved it. I love the culture. I love the people. Um, you know, someone asked me a long time, your career in football and wrestling was very short. Do you wish it could be longer? The answer is no. It wasn't what God meant for me to do. You know, um, I'm a I'm a great businessman. I'm a great father. You know, I really think that God had other plans for me. You know, it's just it's just this it just wasn't meant for me to be. And I don't get mad about the No Limit Soldiers or none of that kind of stuff because it's been 25 years and people still know who Big Swoll is. you know,
Yep.
I'm amazed when I get, especially people from overseas, like from Japan, China. I get fan mail from all over the world, and it's amazing that people still remember the No Limit Soldiers.
It is pretty amazing. But yeah, that's stuck in everybody's mind
Yeah,
from that late '90s. Yep.
it was, but you know what? This is something that I love. Um, at, at least I did it. I did it.
Accomplished.
And like I said, I have no regrets. I really don't. And as you see, I got the biggest smile on my face. Because I made great memories. And I made great friends. And I still remember when WCW got brought by WWE. And they call and they say, "Look, we're selling the company. Do you want to go to WWE and we could pay you out?" They paid me out. They didn't have to do that. So
Smart though. That's awesome for you.
yeah, I took the money. Yeah, I took the money and got the hell. So I didn't want to go to WWE, and stuff like that. That just, wrestling just wasn't something I see myself long term doing. You know, I just didn't never see myself being a wrestler my whole life, and I'm kind of glad because um, I think some of the saddest things in the world when you go to these Comic-Con shows or these
Convention.
wrestling things, and man, and you see these old guys can't even walk. They're selling pictures and dolls, autograph and signed picture for $50. And I just think it's sad. you know, and I went to uh, a wrestling little show in Mississippi around 6, 7 years ago, and those guys look so hurt, they look so beat up, and I never wanted to live my life like that, that was, because you got to remember a lot of these guys, uh, wrestling's all they know, you know, they don't know
Yeah.
how to be anything else,
Yep.
um, you know, I never forget, I was talking, George the Animal Steel, you know, and a lot of people didn't know he was a school teacher, you know, he was a school teacher and a coach, and he always told me, always have something to fall back on, you know. And a lot of these guys just didn't have
They
nothing to
didn't.
fall back on, you know.
As we head towards the finish here, we head towards the wind down. What is next for Swoll? Like, what else do you got going on? Anything wrestling, football related? And then what about your business? Business is.
No, I am about to become, not to become, I am the first African American manufacturer for mattresses. Um, I am, when I was sick, uh, I was having a lot of problems sleeping because of the mattress. And I found out that, these new foam mattresses that we buying are made in China and they're made with poison, a lot of chemicals, and stuff like that. So I hooked up with some doctors in a company called Pike Mattress. And so I'm in the mattress industry. And we also we're doing production right now for the Big Swoll chair. And like I said, the Big Swoll chair, I don't know if you know anybody ever big that's just set in a folding chair and it's collapsed. My
Oh,
chair,
yes.
my
Yes.
chair can hold up to somebody 600 pounds. It's 7 feet tall. It's humongous, you know. And I bring a chair everywhere I go. And everybody wants to buy one, you know. So we're doing that, and um, I just no sports. I just want to help people. I want to tell people, about the danger of sleep apnea. I want to tell them about the danger of heart disease. So many young guys are dying, of heart disease, heart attacks, and stuff like that. And I'm just an advocate. I think God put me in this world to help people, and not to entertain people. You know,
Yep.
and but like I said to you and your followers, if you love wrestling, keep on watching it. I'm encouraging you to. It's just that wrestling wasn't for me. And I'm okay with it. It's like if you ask me, okay, Randy, go back and wrestle, go work with cows. I'd rather go work with cows. You know, I'd rather go
Right.
with cattle, and I'd rather go work with horses.
Right.
Instead of going around. And that's just how I feel. But that's just my life. And so there's nothing in my future. Not even the music industry, um, wrestling industry, football. I don't do anything. The only thing I just want to do is live my life. Watch my kids grow old, and just take care of myself.
Where can everybody find you? Like social media, otherwise, and even like your businesses and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm on right now. I'm on TikTok under Randy Thornton Big Swoll, and I'm also on Facebook Randy Thornton Big Swoll. And we're about to launch the Superior Mattress Company. We're getting their website and stuff. A lot of people realize when you do a business, there's a lot of attorneys involved.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of legal things we're doing. So before I post all that stuff, there's a lot of regulations, and stuff like that. And so it's a corporation, not an LLC, which makes it totally different. Different paperwork and stuff like that. And we've already for the Big Swoll chair, we've already got 2 universities that want to buy the chair. So we it's you know when you see the chair, you're gonna say, man, that's a Big Swoll chair.
That's awesome. I love it. Big Swoll. It's awesome to see you. See you're doing good. But thank you for all the
Well,
time, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Man, thank you allowing me to come on your show, my brother. And I wish you and your family the best of luck. May God bless you and your fans. And like I said, keep on watching wrestling, my brother.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the